Hello, everyone. This is part two of India Opportunity for Growth. Uh, Part two is going to focus on some of the key sectors for business development in India for small and mid-sized enterprises. Now, brother, one of the key factors here, key dynamics that we have seen in terms of sectors and developments is related to the information technology field and information technology and services field. We are seeing in consistent growth with investments mostly from the United States, with many of the key software companies investing heavily in India. And this is something that also we know quite well, also because we have done an in-depth study for CIFA to show all of the steps that they need to be taken to start to operate a startup in IT in India. So tell us more about this IT field. What you have seen throughout the years. The developments, also the locations, and what's happening nowadays.
Yeah, it's a very interesting field because it was a game changer also for the country. It brought in tons of revenues. Many companies started to invest, and it was a whole new ecosystem that the company that the country received from the West. At the same time, the country received from the West, but also many Indian companies like TCS, Tata Consulting Services, not Accenture, sorry, Accenture's American, Infosys. Then there was Satyam in the past. Many such companies really did well in terms of giving tech solutions. As everybody's aware, last month the company's valuation of TCS was higher than Accenture and is number one in the world right now.
Yes,
And
yes.
it is one company that is laying the biggest network of cables in the world for
Mhm.
connecting portals like Formula One. Let's That's one of the great
Yes.
examples that the company has set. So basically, what has happened is this boom has come in right from the year 2000. No, actually, many years back, IT companies had started in 80s, but the boom came during 2000, and the IT companies during the late 80s, they had very poor infrastructure because, of course, the entire world was also in the motion of creating smaller computers and so forth. It was in the 90s that people started to get computers for their homes. Before that, only offices had them, and then came the era of laptop, that people started to move on laptop, and we all saw that era in every country. But the tech solution, the software solutions that companies offered was incredible because of the cost that the west the companies from the west incurred in India in terms of labor cost. In terms of infrastructure, there is beautiful infrastructure that is available in India, even for a smallest company where only one person can work, to large companies where 5,000, 10,000 engineers work in the same premises. So it's an ecosystem that also the government has helped grow. Thanks to Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, our past ex prime minister, who had taken a plunge to boost the IT sector in India. Thanks to him actually, and and we have a lot of ecosystems here in India. We have one of the best ecosystems that are in Pune, that are in Bangalore, that are up north, close to Delhi NCR. There is Hyderabad. So every city and its ecosystem is very peculiar. Every state government where these ecosystems are built are very much supportive to the industry. At the same time, we have the concept of SEZ, that is Special Economic Zone, where
Mhm.
companies who do only the exports of their softwares or exports of some kind of goods like diamonds are placed in that ecosystem, where it is basically it's just like an airport. So basically, you are
Yes.
not in a tax zone. So
Yes.
all these infrastructural facilities have facilitated companies to just come, start their company with all the bureaucracy done. I mean, if you talk about getting an IT office is just like, you can do it in one day. Is so I mean the system is so smooth in terms of information technology.
Great. Now, another field that has seen lots of growth is the one related to food, wines, and coffee. Now, let's focus on that, brother, because I mean, many people, they know that India has a strong cultural heritage about food, and we're always curious to realize whether Indians like Western kind of food. And here we have some statistics that point out, that even 79% of Indians are cooking Western food in their kitchens, and this is, of course, a very interesting market opportunity. Tell us more about that, please.
I would like to say this is we can set this entire food, wine, and coffee sector in a triangle with a hierarchy. So depending on the creamy layer, or you're a middle class or you're lower middle class, I mean, food cravings are the same, but the quality of the food that they eat are different. So that is an important factor. Just to give you an example, if is a middle class, he would go to the mall to have a pizza from Pizza Hut, which is of course not the right pizza. But I mean, then he cannot go to a 5 star to have the actual pizza. There's possibly a wood fired from a wood fired oven. So these are the differences. But at the same time, said that there is a lot of education about foreign food, wine, and coffee. Coffee, of course, I mean, coffee business is huge business. There are companies like CCD who make around $2 billion of sales every turnover every year. It's humongous. Also, growing of coffee is one of the prime businesses. I mean, India is dependent on coffee exports, domestic consumption of coffee, and so forth. Well, I'm really proud to say that after the Indian food, the food which is preferred by Indians is Italian. Because we as Indians, we do not know any other food other than Italian food. I mean, we do not consider a burger as food. Burger is just a snack for us. So sorry, but no offense. I mean, but we prefer Italian food. People like to go out to have a pizza. Or they like to go have pasta. They like to enjoy espresso coffee. They like to have cappuccino. So this is all today's trend. And said that this is all coming from the poor capita income of an individual. In recent budget, we have also seen, and it is quite interesting that the middle class level of income has been raised really, really high, defined by the federal government. I didn't get that. Defined by the federal government. So all these things are, supporting sales of goods. All these things are supporting companies to enter the market and to have operations here in India in terms of food, wine, and coffee. And also, of course, I mean, other. When you talk about food, it can be pasta, it can be the sauces, it can be the exotic fruits from Europe. It could be exotic vegetables. So all these things are growing.
Yes, yes. In terms also of wine, something that is important is that also still the bureaucratic liberalization has generated, it's easier now to have a license, import license for wine, right?
Yes, it's a different field altogether. The sales platform in India in terms of liquor, and wine is considered under the same vertical, is being controlled, highly controlled. So one cannot just go to the department and say, I want to sell liquor, because there are no license which are being issued. So there are only people who are selling. Of course, the restaurants, they get the license, but you do not get a license for a wine shop. It's a more controlled environment. Said that, if you want to become a company that sells wine in India, wine is a booming business in India. there are a lot of Italians who have come to India, have partnered with the Indian wineries, and they have started producing here in India. Of course, not the same quality of wine, but the technology has come in, and they want to produce for the Indian palate because people are learning from the last 10, 15 years about wine. We were colonized by the British, so people are more inclined towards Scotch, or they are more inclined towards beer. So the wine market is growing step by step. Education is rising. At the same time, the medical advices about the benefits of wine is also helping that people are moving from Scotch beer towards wine, depending on
Yeah.
the age or depending
Yes.
on the health issues that they have these days. Yeah.
Yes. 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 And also, we also discussed before a little bit about coffee. Coffee is another important trend because typically we associate India to tea because of the British cultural heritage. But during the last few years, coffee has been, becoming more and more important in India.
Yes, like coffee, basically, we have a very standard coffee that comes from the south of India that is called the filter coffee. And thanks to the new chains that happened like 15, 20 years back, Barista was one of the, Lavazza was one of the key pioneers who came to India, started the chain. Of course, they could not sustain because another Indian company, CCD, they sold the same products but with the Indian coffee. But Lavazza couldn't sustain because they were importing the coffee and they were selling it here. Of course, they wanted to maintain the Italian decorum of quality and taste that they wanted to bring to India. But at the same time, cost factor is also very important, which certainly we will talk about it in coming slides. But coffee is very well known, and the Italian style of coffee is very well known. Today, we have a big player that's Starbucks and has tied up with Tata, the Tata Group.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Tata Group is growing their own coffee to sell in Starbucks. It's not that coffee is coming from African area or is coming from Europe or somewhere else. So it's quite simple. I mean, think global. I mean, think global, act local. I mean, you produce here, and that's why even the government kicks in and gives you more perks, gives you more support. That okay, you produce here, you bring in revenues for the locals also. At the same time, you support the foreign company also.
Now, something here that we'll point out also like later, but is important to stress is that the importance of brands and quality also for what concerns wines and coffee.
Yes.
Having a product with an heritage that is very much respected and liked in India.
Sure.
Because that's part of the mindset that is quite similar in that way also to the Italian one.
Yes.
Another field that is very important, increasingly important, is the one of advanced technologies linked to defense. We're talking about mostly, aviation and aerospace. And there is a consistent growth in the field, and also Italian companies, they can have important opportunities because India, they want to make their own technology, but they still somewhat lack the know-how. Tell us more about that, brother.
Yes, if you consider defense and aerospace, said that, we are, India is building indigenized products. To give you an example, we have the Hindustan Aeronauticals Limited, which is one of the companies in India that is building light helicopters, is building aircraft, of course, the warfare aircrafts. And slowly, with collaboration with the foreign companies, we are having a portion of technology that comes in from them, but we are building it here. So basically, as per the new FDI policies, 74% and 26% as a local partner, many companies have bloomed because the Indian government is investing in buying warfare goods, like the recent deal of Rafales that kicked in. Then there are other warfare goods that the Indian government is buying. But at the same time, they are buying on certain conditions that these companies have to produce in India. So if they have to produce in India, it's not that they give you all the technology. So the support technology is also required from other companies, which are the OE suppliers, basically. So these
Yes.
small size or mid-size companies also are then invited to produce in India. Those are some of the obligations that the Indian government also places in the tendering, that certain parts have to be made in India. This way, companies like Bharat Forge, which is an important group, Kalyani Group, is highly involved in making also missiles. Companies like Godrej, which is involved in making spaceships, space rockets, also in installation of missiles and so forth. They have a lot of collaborations with different partners, global partners. Many American companies also have entered the Indian market. And of course, there are Italian companies like the Augusta Westline, which is also present in India, which supplied helicopters few years back. So this is an open area right now, which is quite interesting because of one key reason, that the Indian government is investing in buying defense goods to strengthen
Yes.
its defense powers.
Therefore, the business model, can be the one just to start, manufacturing there in India, but then also to, from India, export,
Exported,
utilizing
yes. Yes,
in
promoting,
India
they
and
are
also
promoting
export.
really, yeah, they're promoting really, really strongly for these manufacturers to export out of India. So it's a full plan. So our government has gone to different countries, developed these relationships, good relationships for trades, and this is an entire cycle. So you invite also the foreign companies to produce in India, and because there is no embargo, I mean, you can sell your goods to those countries. Maybe it could be GCC or it could be Latin American countries and so forth.
Yes. So this is a very interesting line of business, also because in terms of Italian technology, there are many developments here, since many years ago.
Sure.
Another field that is traditionally very important in India, and also quite interesting for Italy, is the one of fashion. And also in terms of fashion, I mean, the market is large, also because tastes they've been changing, during the last few years, brother. Tell us more about that.
Yes,
Fashion
yes.
and
Taste has
Italy.
been changing. It has been, you can say, partially radical, partially I mean, slow in some cases. I mean, but the mall culture has brought a lot of brands in India. In Mumbai, around the year 2004, we had the first flagship store of Benetton, which was controlled by the head office in Milan. Straight control. The server was controlled from Italy, and that is where the Indians started to look for new brands. They started to explore on the internet because of the exposure from the West, thanks to the internet, thanks to the movies that the Indians saw. There was the realization of new brands in terms of, it could be even cars, it could be even motorbikes, it could be, I mean, we're talking about fashion over here, it could be our accessories, it could be watches. I mean, people were not aware of these brands which existed in the West, and mostly the Italian fashion. When you talk about Italian goods, even if the name is not known in India, and if it is just said that it is an Italian company, that's it. I mean, that's a testimony for the brand to be good to wear or good to buy. So basically, we have got Armani, we have got Gucci. You name the Italian brands, they are present here in India in terms of selling clothes, perfumes, watches, accessories, and also there are some brands which have collaborated with real estate to build premium real estate buildings as the brand buildings, also
Yes.
offices. So basically, it's a full package that has been accepted here in India, and we look more and more progress in this field as
Yeah.
the population is also growing. I mean,
Yes. And by the way, also regarding small to mid-sized companies, I mean, the focus on quality is essential, meaning even if your brand is not the well-known, but it's a brand that is as a tradition, as an heritage here in Italy. That's already a plus. And then, of course, then quality, it is something that is very much.
It's more like it turns out to be more like a boutique brand.
Yes.
You don't focus on mass sales, but more as a boutique brand. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. This concludes part 2 of our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.